breathers. Bedtime breathers. Did we really stop you from sleeping? Were you actually afraid to go to sleep that night? We've got horror stories for you. Hi everyone, it's me again. Yes, that's right. I'm here now to bring you the second half of the story called BARB. And it hopefully has a twist that will keep you guessing. And I really hope you like it. What I'd also like you to do, which I failed to ask and suggest in the first half, was if you like the video, then click like, and also the subscribe button and the bell. And this way, I don't think that you'll ever miss an upcoming episode of Bedtime Breathers. Unless, of course, you're frightened of the result of the first half. Anyway, here goes. This is BARB, Part 2. BARB. Dictionary. BARB, too. A shortened nickname of the word Barbara. Barb was trying to decide what she was going to do for her day off work. She had risen slightly earlier than her normal waking hour, as she had wanted to pack a day full of enjoyment and unusual antics. Having consumed a slightly different breakfast, involving not only a glass of fruit juice, but also accompanied with lightly scrambled eggs on a piece of mildly toasted bread, lubricated with a cup of coffee in the latte style. She hummed as she cleared away her dishes, packing the dishwasher, as was her normal habit, briefly checking that nothing was out of place in her kitchen, before mounting the stairs to pack her duffel bag with swimming costume, towel, and other odds and ends that females require when they go sunbathing in the countryside. It did not take Barb very long to finish that chore before descending the stairs, almost as a young girl might, with growing excitement about the day ahead. Once more, with a cursory glance around her home, she closed and locked the front door and practically skipped to her car, which was resting in the driveway, waiting for her to take control. Pressing the Bluetooth control button, the car not only unlocked itself, but opened the driver's door and also started the engine without Barb's further interference. Practically throwing her bag onto the passenger seat, closing the driver's door, and opening the main window, she buckled up her seatbelt, putting the gear lever into drive as she depressed the brake pedal, required in all automatic transmission vehicles in order to engage a gear, and, after checking the road both left and right, released the brake and carefully exited her driveway, making a left turn to continue southwest before she would join the main highway, taking her onto the forested land no more than 35 minutes of gentle driving into the countryside. These forests were enormous, and often more than 200 miles from top to bottom, sometimes from left to right as well. Not far into this forest region, she knew of a very old rocky area comprised of mainly basalt with some granite rocks that had been formed possibly as many as 1 billion years earlier, in the form of a fairly small lake, but very deep. The colour of the rocks were from black of the basalt and very dark red for the granite. Both of these rocks were igneous rocks, means created by intense heat and volcanic action. The water was crystal clear, yet very deep. Consequently, it appeared to be black because, in fact, no light managed to penetrate the depth of water to the lake bed. Barb had visited this particular place many times throughout her younger life as a teenage girl living with her parents, but had not visited for some 15 years since she had left home and become a career woman. Today was the day that she had made the decision to relive some of the feelings of joy she'd experienced as a young teenager, jumping and diving into the cool depths of the lake, watched by her parents. The weather forecast had been perfect. The particular place that she sought was on a rather flat piece of granite with an almost vertical rock face descending into the still waters of the lake, providing far greater depth than was required to successfully dive from that flat rock 6 meters into the water below. It was still only mid-morning, with daytime temperatures reading a very pleasant 75 degrees Fahrenheit or 23.9 degrees centigrade, Celsius for the Europeans, sufficient to prevent any chills as she would exit the water to clamber onto the flat rock, ready for a second dive. Casting all cares to the side, she disrobed rapidly and donned her rather skinny bikini, showing off a very desirable figure for the new 30-year-old female. Fortunately for her, there was nobody else in sight, nor were there any other sounds, except for those typical forest sounds made by the myriads of animals and birds occupying that part of the forest. It was definitely a very safe place to be, at least as far as anybody knew. It was a beautiful little bit of countryside. She stretched languidly, loosening up her shoulder and hip joints, and then her elbow and knee joints prior to her first dive into the still dark waters. She stood on the flat rock plateau, looking down into the depths of the water and prepared for her dive, as she bent her knees and swung back her arms to give her momentum to make her first somersaulted dive into the water. Just as she had gone beyond the point of no return, she noticed a very slight disturbance about 4 meters from where she would enter the water. She thought it might have been a fish of some sort, and dismissed any possible concern she might have had. She successfully diving and entering the water in a very clean, almost splashless dive. She then surfaced, striking out to her left to where the rocks allowed her to gracefully exit the water without any struggles. This allowed her to climb the rocks rapidly to her favorite plateau to dive in for a second time. Reaching her spot, she again looked to where she'd noticed the original disturbance, but saw nothing breaking the stillness of the lake's surface. Once more, dismissing her curiousness, she took up her position on the flat rock and commenced her dive. Immediately upon reaching the point of no return, she noticed the disturbance exactly where she would enter the water. Breaking the molecular integrity of the surface of the lake, she felt a tremendous thud on her back, just between her shoulder blades, as she bent her spine in a concave manner, commencing her rise to the surface. The pain was tremendous, as it was not so much like a scratch or a talon of a bird, or even somebody pushing a short blade into her body. This was the pain of something that not only entered her body, but was ripping upwards a good 2 or 3 inches, tearing her flesh as it went in, but preventing the hook from being dislodged by the barb. The pain caused her suddenly to draw in a very deep breath, which, of otherwise, she would not have done so, knowing that she was still under water, should her dive have been typical. She was hooked with a barbed hook. Still far from the surface, her lungs immediately filled with cool lake water, which pushed her into a fit of coughing, consequently drawing in yet more water into her already tortured lungs, thereby foiling her ability to escape her watery environment. Flailing because she was in severe pain and reacting rather than consciously acting to preserve her life, she became further disoriented, started sinking, and dragging even more into her lungs that caused her to lose consciousness. She never breathed fresh air again. BARB had met BARB. It fully understood the enjoyment of tasting this unusually sweet, slightly thickened liquid, with a warm temperature being transferred from within BARB to BARB. BARB grew in stature. It gained its understanding of lust, of its desire of furthering its understanding of its new craving of want. Humans. It began to hunt. It now knew what it actually was and what the purpose for its existence was. It was hooked and understood the effectiveness of how to use its own name. The end. I hope you like the story and the twist at the end. Not the Barb twist, but just the twist in the plot. Anyway, this is the end of the first of the bedtime breathers, and I hope it will be the first of many more to come. Hopefully, as I manage to write more of them and in the same format, then I'll be able to increase the frequency of them, thereby letting you have more than one in a month, for example. So please, once again, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell. And I'll see you in a few short days with story number 2, whose title is Maggot.